This is a color wheel, the color wheel. This is a representation of how color works. We call it the law of color. Over the next few videos, I'm going to talk about some of the ways that we as hair colorists use the color wheel. The first thing to understand about the color wheel is warm, cool, and neutral. Many of us have heard about warm and cool skin tones, and I just want to review real quick about warm and cool on the color wheel, how we make those things, and how a neutral can be either warm or cool. The color wheel starts with 3 primary colors: blue, red, and yellow. Blue is the only cool color, while red and yellow are warm. If I combine red and yellow, they make a secondary color, orange, that is also warm. However, if I combine yellow and blue, they make a secondary color, and that color is green. Now, is green warm or cool? The thing is the balance between the warm and the cool will determine whether that secondary color is warm or cool. So if I have a more yellow green, that yellow green is going to be a warm green. But if I have a more blue green, then that's going to be a cool green. Now, one of the ways that we use the color wheel most often is finding a neutral. I think people think of neutrals as neither warm nor cool, but in reality, a neutral is just when you mix all 3 primary colors. How we as hairstylists most commonly make a neutral is we take the color opposite another onto the color wheel. For instance, red. If I want to turn red into a neutral, then I'm going to add green. Since red is a primary color that I've added a secondary color to, I have in effect added all 3 primary colors. Because yellow and blue make green, plus red, now I've added all 3 primary colors. Red and green equal a neutral. What is a neutral? Neutral is really where natural hair color lives. A not as fancy way of saying neutral is brown. Neutral equals brown, whether it's dark brown or light brown, which we refer to as blonde. It's just really, really light brown. Those are our neutrals. So if I'm neutralizing 2 colors, say adding red and green, I could add more green to that red, or I could add more red to the green, and we can have different shades of that brown. Since green is made out of yellow and blue, what if I add more blue to that balance of yellow, blue, and red? Now I can have a even cooler brown. But this brings up an interesting point. One of the first things that's super important to know about toning and about hair color in general is that we're dealing with light. Color is just the way that we perceive light. The color wheel represents the visible spectrum of light. What does that mean? It means that light from whatever our light source will shine onto an object. That object will reflect those light rays. Whatever it absorbs is the spectrum of light you don't see. Whatever bounces off of it is the spectrum of light we do see. So if I see an object as green, that means that all of the light is being absorbed into this except for the green wavelengths, and they're bouncing off, and now we perceive it as green. So when we're changing the colors of something, we're essentially making it absorb or reflect different light wavelengths. Now, why is this important? This is the point of the video today. Now that we've talked about warm and cool a little bit, and we've talked about how the spectrum of light is reflected or absorbed, we need to understand that cool colors, when we're observing a cool color, more light rays are actually being absorbed and less are being reflected off. So anything that's going to appear to have a cool tone or that blue base to it is going to appear darker. Even if it's just as light as the warm colors, anything cool is always going to appear darker. Anything warm is always going to appear lighter. You can see we have 2 primary colors that are warm. There's more light being reflected off of that object, which means we're seeing those warm colors. And somehow through our visual matrix that we have up here, we are seeing something that we perceive as lighter. So that's something to keep in mind when formulating hair color. So if I take this natural level finder here, and let's say somebody wants something in this sort of media, like light brown to dark blonde sort of range, but they want it to reflect cool. They have a cooler skin tone. They want those like blue and green undertones in there. It is going to appear darker than maybe sometimes we intend it to, and vice versa. So that means if we've achieved, let's say, a level 7, and it's just too warm, but it's the lightness we want, then if we cool that down, we're going to perceive it as something even darker. So as colorists, we need to formulate appropriately and know what our limits are and how to manipulate that law of color. If I want something very light but cool, I often have to overshoot it to make sure that I can get that lightness perception I want and still achieve the coolness. The brightest blondes always appear a little bit warm because that's how the law of color works. The darkest browns and blacks are always going to appear a little bit cool or blue-black because that's what's going to give us that perception. That's what's going to absorb the most light and reflect the least. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. If you like what you saw and you want to see some more, go ahead and check out some of my other videos. Feel free to share with any of your nerdy friends. Click the subscribe button. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Let me know what else you want to hear about. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.